All right, it is 9 a.m. So good morning, everybody. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I am going to just keep letting people in as they get into the waiting room here, but we are going to get started. So we are on time this morning. My name is Emma Harbaugh. I'm the training manager for the Michigan Works Association. We're really glad you guys are here with us this morning to do some learning. Just some very quick housekeeping things on our end. Because we have quite a big group with us today, stay on mute and with your cameras off. That'll help with connection issues. And hopefully everybody will, that won't be a problem for anybody. I will be kind of monitoring the chat on the back end. So if you do come up with questions as our trainer is presenting, I will, make sure that those questions are asked and make sure I get that done for you guys. We are recording today, so there'll be a copy of the recording of the training this morning. And I think that's about all I have. If you're interested in any other trainings, please feel free to reach out to me or visit our website. And other than that, if you have any questions, just let me know, send me a quick chat, and I will pass it over to our trainer, Lori, this morning.
Good morning. Nice to see everybody this morning. As Emma said, it is thundering where I'm at. I'm hopeful that we don't lose power, but if I disappear, that's what has happened. So welcome to everybody. I see some friends, I see some new names, I see names that I recognize. So welcome. Today, we're just going to go through the Salesforce instance that the association offers to Michigan Works agencies if you don't already have a collection repository for your business services. So this is not a Salesforce in general discussion. However, Salesforce navigation is pretty consistent throughout any instance that's made. So if you don't have the association's Salesforce, you may be able to glean some things. We are going to go through some potential report writing at the end, but it's very informal. I'm very informal. So if you have questions, I would almost rather you stop me where we're at, so we don't have to kind of track back to where we were when you had the question. Just a little bit about myself before we get started. I was fortunate enough to work in the Michigan Works system for about 6 years, and I was an MIS administrator and the Business Services Director. So I am a BSP. I've been in your shoes. I've been out on the streets, pounding the pavement, talking to employers. I understand your system, and I understand the key performance metrics that you're working to. So I have some knowledge of what you do, and I also have knowledge of Salesforce. And this Salesforce instance is a shared instance, which means that there's multiple agencies that use this. So we've implemented what's called roles or sharing rules so that your agency can only see information that's related to your agency. You wouldn't be able to see somebody else's information. That being said, the system, because it serves a purpose for many agencies, is not fully customizable to what your agency might need. So there is some things that we can change in the system and some things that we can't. Salesforce is highly customizable. So I would always make the suggestion that if you as a BSP is out there and there's a field that you collect of information every time, and we're not having that, we don't have that field in Salesforce, that you might make the suggestion, because if you need it, it's likely somebody else might need that and find that helpful. The last thing I want to say before I'm going to shut off my camera and we'll get started is that just because I'm showing you how to go through and do data entry into this Salesforce, your agency might have their own processes and procedures that you need to follow. So please don't go back to your directors or bosses and say, oh no, Lori said that we can do this, because you need to follow those practices and procedures before you follow what I say. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'm gonna stop my video and share my screen. And everybody can just give me like a thumbs up when you see the Salesforce home screen show up. Good. Okay, so when you log into Salesforce, you're always going to land on this home page. And this home page is it's just the landing page. We have some items that we thought would be helpful to you here, which is recent items. So this is going to show you the last 10 accounts that you touched. I'm logged in right now as a system administrator, which means that I can see everybody's information. If you're on this call and I happen to land on an account that you would rather these people on this training not see, please let me know and I will move around. So this home screen is just going to show you your recent 10 accounts. You're always going to land here, and then you just move your way through. We have this section over here called today's task, which I'll show you that feature as we move around through the system and we task somebody with an activity that needs to get done. And then this section right here is what's called the chatter. And that's kind of like the Facebook for Salesforce. So it's a way for you to interact within your teams and share information. I don't think anybody really uses this anymore, but it's there for you. So this screen is customizable. You know, we can add different wikis and wizards to this screen. Quite honestly, I'm in a number of different Salesforces and it never really serves very good purpose. We can put reports and dashboards on this, but sometimes it's just easier to be able to go right to where you need to go. So today I'm going to start out just by kind of showing what I would do as a business services person out in the field. Did somebody have a question? So I'm just going to kind of show you what I would do had I been out on the road during the day and I needed to come back to Salesforce and log this information in, or if I was getting ready to go out and meet with some employers for the day, I might want to show, look up this information and be able to see what's kind of going on in the world. Okay, so let's say I've been out for the day and I met with a company. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check and make sure that it's not already in Salesforce. So I'm going to use this search bar up top. This search bar is a global search bar, which means that it searches through everything that's in Salesforce. So if I click in the search bar, I'm going to just start with because I went to test Acme today. So I'm going to just start typing, and you'll notice as I'm typing, it's already bringing up results. So it's going to show me maybe test Acme organization task. It's going to show me an account. There's another account that's called lead test company. There's a report called test report. There's some contacts in here. There's some related lists. So I have lots of options here as I start this search to find what I'm looking for. If you hover over these, it will bring up additional information for you. So if you have a million McDonald's that you work with and you don't know which one has come up here because the address doesn't show up in this list, you can actually hover over these and maybe find the one, because it's going to show you just like a quick Rolodex card of the information for that particular account. And if this was the account that I was looking for, I can also use this section of this related list quick links to quickly go to look at maybe even the activity history. So there's lots of ways of looking at information without having to click through a bunch of times to find out what you're looking for. So in this case, I've just been to test Acme organization. So I'm going to click that account. And when I click that account, it brings to me everything that's gone on within that account or that business, that employer. It shows me all of the contacts. It shows me any activity history I've had. It will show me the projects and the job orders. So it's going to be a one view for what's going on within that employer's record. At this top, you're going to see a highlights panel that you can't edit anything. Like I can't get in here and edit the phone number. I can see that I don't have a phone number in here. I can't edit from here. This panel up here is just intended to bring information that's all through this page up to the top of the screen so that you don't have to scroll to find it. We could put things like what industry, or if they're a veteran owned, we could put some of those things up here in this highlights panel if we wanted to. And then all the way across to the right of the screen, you're going to see that you can follow this just kind of like Facebook and get updates when people make changes or post chatter about this account. You can get a printable view of this. You would not be able to, as regular users, change the owner or delete it, but you could use this edit. So if you needed to edit information and you clicked edit, it's going to pop up an additional box where you can make edits and you can scroll through all of this information, click save, and go from there. The second panel is where the system is going to look for potential duplicates. So if you have come to an account and you see that there's a potential duplicate here, there's going to be something that says view duplicates. Now, the duplicate is based on a rule on the back end of Salesforce, and it develops an algorithm from the city, from the website. And so if you don't always have that information entered into Salesforce on accounts, it may not find all of the duplicates. That's possible. So this one right now doesn't have any duplicates of the account. I will show you in a few minutes if we wanted to create a new account, that as I'm creating the new account, if at any time it finds that this is looking like a duplicate, you will get a message as you're creating that account to tell you that this looks like it's going to be a duplicate. The next panel is your related list quick links. So this is just another navigation tool of all of the information that's located down this right side of Salesforce. What this does is allows you to quickly hover over all of these items without having to scroll down to find the information. And it also gives you a very quick view of how many activities
and fiscal
or contacts are listed for this account. And then you can also see if there's, like this one says 0, so we don't have any files associated with this account. From here, you can do many things. You could hover over this, hover over anything that's blue, which is a hyperlink, and you could go to that record and edit it. You can look at some information for that activity. And you can also use this drop down to edit these features. Using this edit feature from here doesn't take you away from this accounts page, which I find very helpful. So then I don't have to backtrack my steps, remember the breadcrumbs to get back to where I want to do. I could easily edit this activity from here.
Hey, Lori, it looks like we do have a hand up here from Denise.
Okay.
Hi, Lori, it's Denise. I don't really have a question. I just wanted to put a request out for everyone to please mute, or if you guys have control of muting people. I don't think people realize that we can hear some of their conversations and their laughter. So just a reminder for everyone to mute their stuff. Thanks.
So going through this related quick links, again, it's just another way for you to enter in information that's along this right side of the panel. Down the left side of your account panel is all of your account information. And there are a lot of fields for some of these objects. And that's what an account and a contact, those are all called objects. So there's a lot of fields in this object. So you may have to scroll a long way to have to edit information. Again, if you need to edit, you can use the edit in the top right, and that would bring up a new box so that you could scroll through and make multiple edits. Or you'll notice there's a feature with a pencil. So if I needed to come in here and say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and put in a phone number here. I can put in the phone number, click save, and now it's saved here. You'll notice that once I put that phone number in here, it popped it up into that highlights panel. So you can go through and pencil these things if you wanted to. You can also use this arrow down to minimize the boxes of information. So if I do that, I can quickly find the information that I need to. Now this saves this navigation measure that you just took. So if I go to another account, these are all going to be minimized. To get them back, you just have to press the arrows for the information to pop back up. So let's say I've been out to test Acme for the day, and I met with somebody, and I come back to the Salesforce, and I'm going to log this, and I get in here and I'm like, oh, okay, so I met with somebody named Johnson. Yeah, I don't think that's who I met with. So I need to add the new contact of the person that I met. You can do that in a couple different ways. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. It's really what your comfort level is. I could go to the contacts, and I could go over here to new. And now I can go ahead and put in the new contact. I suggest that you start your data entry from your account record all the time. And that's because everything in Salesforce is related back to that most important piece of information, which is your account, your employer, who you're working with. You should not have anything in Salesforce that's not related back to an employer. So when you start at the employer in the account record, then every time you make something new, you add a new project, you add a new contact, it will relate that automatically to that account. As you see right here, it pulled that in for me. I didn't have to go find it. So this is helpful if you have an account that you either don't know which one it is because you have multiples, like McDonald's. This might be helpful if you have an account that has a funky spelling. And if you were to go in and create a contact and then try to attach it to the record, then you've got to find the account name properly. So it's just always easiest, I think, to pull up the account record, make sure that's the employer that you're working with, and start there and enter in all your information. So it's related that back to Test Acme organization, which is where we were at. It brought in some information from the account. So it brought in the phone number, it brought in the address. So if I needed to make updates, because this contact isn't necessarily at that home office, I could make that from here. So we'll just go ahead and add some information. You'll notice that there are some fields that have a red asterisk, and that means they are required. You can't save without having that information in here. So on the contact record, there's not very much that you have to enter. Seems great, right? Like, whoa, I don't have to enter very much information and I get to save it. Well, that will bite you in the if you have to go back and try and find a contact and make sure that you don't have a duplicate. So, you might want to just quickly get somebody in fast, but you want to make sure you go back and enter in more information so that you're not entering in duplicate information. So from here, I can choose save, or I can choose save and new. So maybe I met with Jane and John Doe, and I need to log those two records. So I can do that quickly by choosing the save and new here. I'm going to go ahead and click save. And now my new contact has been created. All of these numbers will update, and I'll be able to see that information here. So in these related lists along the right panel, if you hover over some of these things, a little box is going to come up that will show you some information so that you might not have to go and look at the record. Might be helpful if you needed to know, is there projects that are related back specifically to this contact. It's just another way to see information. And remember that anything that's blue, it's hyperlinked, so it will take you to the record. I'm going to go back in and look at Jane's contact, because I think when I was in here before, maybe I didn't say she's the primary. So if I might want to use this field here to say the next time I go and talk to somebody at Test Acme, I really want to talk with who is the primary contact. So I'm going to check that box just so that I can make sure that I know who's primary. And then what I can do down here in this list is this actually shows up like a list, and you can sort these column headings. So now I can change this list so that my primary person is on top. So it's just a helpful way for you to quickly be able to see who's primary, because you may have some employers that you're working with where you have multiple contacts. So this might be helpful for you in that vein. So now we've gone to test Acme. We have a new contact, Jane Doe. So now we need to kind of log the information that we've done for the day there. So I'm going to go to activity history. So activity history is where you might be logging things like a call that you made to the employer, might be a visit that you made. Maybe you've emailed the employer and you want to log that here, or maybe the employer has called you. So there's a button over here that says log call. Now it's not a literal call. It's really saying I've made a call out to the employer, or they've made a call in. We've gone out and we've touched them. It's really a touch point. So you can use this log a call and it'll bring up a box here. So it's a small box here for you to log the call. You can, if that's too small for you, you can use this maximize to bring it to the center of the screen so you can see things a little bit more. So because I'm in test Acme record, it's already going to relate that back to test Acme. It's assigning this log a call to me. I can choose the status. So it's going to default to completed because the system thinks you've already done it, but you can choose to say, I haven't started it, or I went out there, it's in progress. I still need something else that needs to be done here. And you can change those fields here. And in the subject field, it's a typing field or it has a drop down. So these are some quick text options for you to use. And if they don't fit what I want, I can just back that out of there and say, old visit. Again, refer back to your agency procedures on what maybe the subjects should be for your touches with your employers, because they may be running reports based on some of this information. The next thing I can do from here is attach my visit or my call to a contact. And this is helpful if you want to see in a contact record how many times you've interacted with them. So it not only will log this visit to your account, it will also log this visit to a contact. So I can from here search, and it's going to bring up Jane Doe because I just was in there with her. Now you'll notice that it also brings up names that don't belong to this account. That's kind of a nutty feature in Salesforce, is that we can't always make this related list show just who's related back to the account. So luckily for us, we just put in Jane Doe. So she's right here. But if I needed to search, I could search. So I'm going to search Johnson because that was the last one that I knew was in there. So I can find Johnson here. So it'll show you the name of the contact, but it'll also show you the name of the employer.
We've got a hand up here from Drew. Drew?
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you. There are occasions where we might have to enter the same record 10 or 50 or 200 times if we're doing like a mass emailing or something. Is there a way to do a batch upload on this, or is the only solution to enter the same note 10 or 50 or 200 times?
There is a way to do it through an import. So I would suggest if it is like 200, then you can send Emma or Kim, Anise, I don't know who your contact is, an email and say, we have, a bunch of records that need to be uploaded. Can we get some help? And that's usually a pretty quick thing for me to be able to do. It only takes about 5 minutes. But we could do it that way, but there is not a way to batch those in from another screen, like an import. And Drew, you're doing those through your own email system. You're not doing those as a mass email out of Salesforce.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because one of the things that I noticed is it appears that when you attempt to do an email through Salesforce, it's not going to upload that email as a across every record that's being touched by that email. It's only going to go to the original one. At least that's been my experience.
Okay. I know that there are several organizations as IT and security has gotten tighter throughout the years that if we use the mass email or the list email out of Salesforce, those tend to get lost in email boxes or spam boxes. So I wouldn't really suggest using list emails unless your IT department's got that figured out where it's not really, going into spams. But I will do some checking to see, because I'm sure this isn't just something unique to this group that needs to do a batch like that. But I know Salesforce thinks, well, we have the answer. You just mass email out of the system. And I know that doesn't always work. I can log this call to multiple names. So if I also wanted to log the call to Johnson, I could put that in here. So you can do multiple contacts when you're logging this information. We can add a due date. So maybe this was something that needed some touching in the future. We can add a date in the future here. And then we have this date of activity. So you can add, maybe it was yesterday that you were out there and you needed to put that in. We'll leave it there. And then you can go in and add comments. So you can free type in here. There's also this little button that's going to pop up, a quick text option. So you could enter in a quick text. And you can add things over here. It's showing you the title of those. So I'm going to say we were out and provided a menu of services. So it'll quickly type in those comments. I don't have to do that 100 times. And maybe that's one way, Drew, if you don't have quick text, is to help with some of that data entry. I know 200 records, that's going to be a lot, but that's a feature that you might be able to use. So then I'm going to click save. And now that's going to show up here in my activity history. So it's going to show me a running total of what's been going on within that account record. This email button will bring up an email. And like I said before, you can email out of Salesforce. I just don't think it's best practice to do that because it's not going to save in your Outlook or your Gmail box either. So you always have to kind of go back into Salesforce and find it. But it is a feature here. And if it works for you, then it works. So we've logged our call. We've logged our new contact. Let's say when we were out and we're talking to Jane, she had a special request and we decided that we needed some information, or we want to task another one of our friends in Salesforce to have to do something with that. We can do what's called an open activity. So we can actually task somebody in Salesforce to go and do something with this company. It automatically assigns this to me, but if I wanted to add somebody else, then I could tag Denise and say, I really need you to go out and do something. This is going to be in progress. Say, interested in Going Pro Talent Fund, and maybe that's just not in my realm of duties. So Denise is the gal that goes out and talks to people about that. So I'm going to let her know that I need that to happen, and that really she should talk to Jane when she's there. I told Jane that we'd be in contact, within a couple weeks. It's related back to Test Acme. The priority is normal, but you can make it high or low. And then I'm just going to put in the date that I assigned this task. That way it just lets you know that that's when it was done. And then I can put in comments. Jane was very interested. Going Pro Talent Fund. And I explained Denise will provide an additional contact. Then I'm gonna click save. If I needed to task somebody else to do another task, I could use that save and new to do that. So now I've got all these open activities here. So revisit in 2 weeks. It shows me what the due date is. It shows me that they're in progress. So if I needed to come back and say, you know, this got done, I need to update the status, I can do that by checking my edit. So here's a business services task that I assigned to myself. I'm going to go in here and say this is completed, and I'm going to click, maybe put in a comment and say they visited, cited buyer services and pro talent, and click save. So now this is not an open activity anymore. It will take that activity and move it up into your activities list. So now I went from 4 down to 3. So you can come into your records and say, oh, geez, man, I told Jane I was going to do all these things and I still have these things either open. So I need to close them out or I need to get them done. And I'm just going to quickly go back to my home page and show you that when you're tasked with something, it'll show up in this area. So it wasn't a task for today, but I know it's my task. So now I can see all of the tasks that have been given to me, and they will show up here. You can click to view the task. You can view all your tasks, which will take you out to a different tab where you'll see all them.
We do have another hand up here from another Lori.
Okay.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering about when you task it out to another individual in Salesforce, in the screen that's open now, how does it ping them to have them reference my tasks, or is this an aspect of the program where the group has to agree that this is how we're utilizing it and we need to check our tasks on a regular basis?
That's a great question, Lori. So it used to show up in your notifications, and I noticed last night that mine weren't showing up. So I'm interested if anybody tasks often, is it showing up in your bells? Would anybody provide some input? Okay. Denise, did you get a ping when I sent you that task? Oh, maybe Denise stepped away. I'll check in.
No, I just
to this
I couldn't find my unmute button. I got an email sent to me. I didn't get a ping, and I don't see anything because I'm in Salesforce right now. I didn't get any notifications in Salesforce that I can see, but it did generate an email.
Okay.
So in Oakland County, we never have used this function, but I think it operates very similar. Like if we transfer an account from one user to another, it doesn't necessarily do anything within Salesforce, but it will send an email to the individual, just like I got here when you tasked me with this assignment.
Okay. All right. So it used to show up. So you used to be able to log into Salesforce and this bell would be red and it would have a couple numbers at the top and show you, you might have 3 or 4 tasks, and that was a quick way for you to go. So I will check in to see why that's not working, or if something has changed in the recent updates, to see if we can figure out if that's true. But like Denise said, you should be getting an email if somebody were to task you. Okay, so Tricia said she's not in this particular Salesforce, but she sees these tasks each morning when she signs in. Okay. Marty says refresh your browser. Okay. You mean I have to do an update or shut down my computer, Marty? I'm adverse to those things. Okay, so I'm going to go back to test Acme. So again, from my recent items, I don't have to go back to my search bar because I was there. So I'm going to go back here, and we're going to keep scrolling down those related list quick links. and we've done our open activities, we've done our contacts. Now from here, if we needed to start a project, we could do that. So a project in this particular instance of Salesforce is any type of service you may be providing to your employers. And again, follow your own agency processes on how that might work. We have had organizations that don't use the projects tab at all, and they did all of their service recording through the task and the activities, and that's whatever works for you guys is the best practice for your own organization. So you can see here that we have a Going Pro Talent Fund project name started, but let's say we are going to do something else. So when you click new here for a new project, the first screen you're going to get is it's going to say select what type of project it is. So we have different record types because each of the services that you provide have a little bit of different information that might have to be collected for that. So let's say, you know, they're going to post a job, or we're going to offer some resume reviews and searches. So we're going to offer some hiring. So I would pick hiring services and choose next. And then this layout is going to be specific to hiring services. So there's going to be specific information that I'm going to enter here that I might not have to have entered if I were to have chosen a different project. This field right here, this close date, has always been an annoying field for everybody, because this may not really have a close date, maybe a one and done type thing. But we used the opportunities tab when we created this Salesforce, and because it's a sales-based system, it's really all about closing the deals. So you do have to put in a close date. So whatever your process is, you could do it as today, you could do it as in the future. For your hiring services, if you're adding something and it's a job fair and it's going to be in a couple of days, you might want to add the close date then. So you choose what the close date is. So we're just going to go ahead and say we're going to close this out tomorrow, and we're going to put in a project name of resume search. You do have to choose the stage, so you can say any of these options. So project complete. You could put in an amount. You could put in a program here. So this was a field that a different Michigan Works organization wanted in there. So you could choose not applicable. And then if it was a placement, you could talk really fast about the jobs filled. From here, you can add services that you provided. So this is a multi-level pick list. So you can choose as many as you want and put them over there. You could add the ONET code so that if you wanted to run a report based on how many services you provided for welders, you could put the ONET code in there. You could put the My Talent Connect job posting link and number in here. If you weren't using the job orders tab, you could do those things here. So there's all this information that you can enter, but not much of it is required. So I'm going to click save. And again, I could choose save and new if I wanted to do multiple services at that time. So now I've got my resume search in here. We do have this job orders tab where you can enter in job order specific information and then track your placement records on there. So you can click new from here. And again, some agencies use the job orders, some agencies don't. You have the job order date. You can talk about all of these items here. You can put in the job title, position type. This is a required field here. So you can say where you posted that. We may have to look at some of these options. Maybe you have more posting channels we can add to this pick list if you needed to. You can put in your codes and your links here again and click save. Got it. So base wage. So now we've got a new job order in this tab. we'll go look at that job order here in a minute so we can show you how to add a placement record to that. Continuing down this right panel of all of the things that are related to an account. So when you think about an account and all of these related things to them, I always think about those Russian dolls that you kind of put into each other and you open one up and another one comes out. They kind of all fit under the umbrella of account because everything's related back to the account. So you could add partners here if that's interesting for your organization or something that you track. You could add notes. One caveat with the notes is this is very difficult to do a report on. If you wanted to add a note, just know that we cannot usually run a report that will show you these very clearly. But you could put a note that says, you know, went to meet with the employer and have a very vicious dog when you walk into the lobby. You could put a note in there so that your other friends at your agency had that information about the account. You can also upload files, and then you can look at the account history. So this is helpful if you want to say, well, when did I change the phone number? What was it before and what was the new value? You can also see who changed those values. So if somebody came in and changed a phone number for an account that you go out to often, you could come back and find out who actually was making those changes.
We've got another hand up here.
Okay.
Back in the partner section, when you add a partner, does that if that partner has a record within Salesforce, will it automatically get added to their account as well?
You were echoing and I couldn't really understand what you were saying.
Oh,
Somebody else
sorry.
got it.
At the partner section, you can add a partner. Will that show up on the partner's account?
Lori, she's asking in the partner section, if you enter information, will it show up in the partner's account? No, Mona, that's just for our own internal records. It doesn't connect to any external partners.
Yeah, when we go, thank you, Denise. When you go here and search, you can search accounts that are in the system. So if I needed to search for, you know, somebody that wasn't in here, it's not going to come up. I'm not sure that many people use this partner section. So this does show that Test and Oakland are partners right here. Oh, this is good. So we've landed on Oakland, on Ulsa here. And it's telling us this looks like we have a duplicate. So from here, I can view the duplicate accounts. And because I'm a system admin, I can walk through this step and say, these look like duplicates. But it'll show you why it thinks they're duplicates here. So then from here, we can merge those accounts.
Lori,
So
if you want to go ahead and move forward with merging those, go right ahead.
okay. So when I do this, it'll ask me which fields I want to keep. So I'm just going to kind of go through here, and there's a couple different things in here. Denise, do you know? Does it matter?
Hold on, okay. I didn't realize I was unmuted. You can use the one on the right for the address. Oh, like, yeah, everything on the left is good. Oh yeah, there you go, Oakland, and then the description. Leave the ones on the left.
So
Yeah,
this is going to leave as Mike, or do you want it to be Athena?
Well, neither of them are in the system anymore. So, and I don't think it gives you an option to choose that because that just shows who it was created by. Ownership is with somebody else. Ownership is going to be with someone who's currently active. So the created by really is indifferent. So yeah, you can just go forward with next.
So now what that did is if there were any activities contacts with the other one that we merged, it brings it all into this one account. And again, you will not, as users in the system, be able to do the duplicate because that is really doing a lot of stuff on the back end. So you just have to send those requests into the association, and then I can merge those. really
Lori,
quickly.
if you're the account owner on both of them, you do have the rights to merge
Oh.
them.
So you
as long
could
as-
change the account owner to both to you and make it
Yeah,
that.
so like,
Okay.
yeah, I can't change, like, no one can change account owner. You would have to do that. But like in that instance, since I was the account owner on both of those accounts, I would have had the ability to merge. But if someone else from my team owned one of them, I would just have them change the ownership to myself, or I would have changed my ownership to them. And then I would have them merge them together.
Oh, good. Well, that's helpful.
So you
'cause that's
can,
a-
yeah, as long as the account ownership is the same,
Okay.
you can merge them.
Good to know, because it's, as you saw, it's difficult for me to make a decision on who should be, which value is the best. So
Right.
that's a great,
Yeah, so a lot of times, like I said, in Oakland County, if we come across duplicates, if I'm not the owner on both, I just have people transfer ownership. And then we get it to the same ownership on both of them, and then we merge them from there.
good. Excellent. So now you guys are hearing that you have your own agency specific professionals and experts in Salesforce. So, and Denise and Oakland, you guys have been in this particular system for so long, so you know a lot of the ins and outs of that.
I pretend to know what I'm talking about.
And here I am throwing you under, I'm saying, everybody contact Denise from now on if you have questions. All right, so we're going to go back to home. And before I move on from our test acne organization and all the things that we have done, I just want to double check and see if anybody has any questions about what we've done so far. Okay. So I said we would go back to this job order and talk about the placement. So I'm going to go to this job order that we created today, and I'm going to click on that. So it brings me, you'll notice at the top, it's moving along and doing the job order tab, and it's highlighting that's where we're at. So now it brings me to my job order. So let's say I needed to add placement records to this. You can start to track how many of those 5 open positions have been filled. So let's say, we just hired a widget maker today. We want to go in and make sure that we record that. You can put in the number of placements here. You can say, maybe it was from a specific program. If you wanted to put in their Osmus ID, you could. There's status placement. There's placement type, direct. Maybe it was an OJT. You could add their name if you wanted. If this was a specific project, I could even attach this placement record back to that project. And then you can add in notes. So I'm going to say we had 1 placement. Looks like I've got all the fields. So now it's going to show me these placement records. And then as I go down to position and fulfillment, it's going to say we had 5. We've had 1 placement, and now we have 4 left open. You can also task through this if you needed to. So say I was the supervisor for the business services professional, and I said, it looks like this hasn't been updated. I could task somebody on this, or I could task myself to go out and say, you know what, in 2 weeks, I'm going to check back in with the employer and make sure that there hasn't been any more jobs that have been filled. So I can go through and add a task to this account, and it'll task it to this job order. So when I go back to my home screen and look at my task, it'll show me that I have a task related to this specific job order. And you can do those open activities on most of these individual records. So you could, task yourself something specific to a contact or specific to a project. So you could keep really a good log if you had time to do all the data entry that, Salesforce will allow you to do, to task everything that you're doing within a specific project or any of the account contacts or projects in Salesforce. Okay, so that's the lay of the land. That's kind of the navigation as you're a working VSP out there entering in information into Salesforce. I do want to show just a few quick tips or tricks. If you have records that you work with often, so let's say this job order, they had 25 or 50 placements, and you know that you're going to be back here maybe every day or every week adding placement records. If you don't want to have to continually search for this job order record, you can use this star up in the top right to make this a favorite. So I'm going to add that to my favorites. It's that quick and simple. And then the next time I log into Salesforce and I land on my home page, I can go up here to my favorites list. And now it's going to show me all the things that I have favorited. And I can go right back to that job order. And once it's done, I can edit my favorite and I can just delete the favorite, and now it's not there anymore. So this is a quick way for you to be able to add a favorite for anything. And you can add a favorite to any of these records that are in Salesforce. So I can even do that for a report. So if I run a report often, you can see I have accounts by county. I can quickly come into Salesforce, not have to navigate this crazy reports tab, and I can quickly find what my favorite report is. So that's one small tip. We've had quite a few individuals that have had issues with the multi-factor authentication. So while we're here today, I just want to show that if you go to your view profile and you go to settings, it's going to bring up this panel on the left-hand side. And if you go to advanced user details, in the center panel, you should be able to see what you're connected to for your multi-factor authentication. And what we can do is generate a code for you so that you can bypass that step for the MFA. And then what I usually have people do is come back in here and connect. So this is a way for if it's not working and just sometimes something happens, I can't explain it. You might have to disconnect your authenticator and then go through the steps to reconnect it. So you do have some ability to try and troubleshoot that issue for yourself. So then in your avatar up here, you have all of these other things that you can look through if you wanted to make some changes. Look at my list here. What's my favorite?
Lori?
Yes.
Hi, it's Lori Spicer again. And I just want to say to the group how wonderful Lori is when you're in an emergency. In that situation, my phone was not working and she was able to get me in after a bit of troubleshooting. Really appreciate you.
Oh, thank you.
You bet. But I do have a question.
Okay.
If you're getting a new phone, we would need to follow the instruction you just provided, yes or no?
I would say try that first. And if that doesn't work, then contact me.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You should be able to connect and disconnect through that advanced user settings there to reconnect your phone to the app. And it's been so long, and I won't even get a new phone because I'm so scared of having to do all that stuff for multi-factor for every system that we're in. So we're all learning as this has been implemented. This has been, I think, like a 2-year process where Salesforce said, you need to do this. And so we did it, and then they put it off for a long time. And then all of a sudden one day they were just like, we're done. Everybody's going to this. And it was kind of a big shift, and it came really fast. So we still have some issues. It's not a very intuitive process, I don't think. So happy to help when I can. And I try to check my email often during the day. I do have a regular day job outside of this Salesforce passion that I have. So sometimes I'm not as fast as checking emails, but I will try and check them often during the day. So recycle bin. So I might need help from you guys to see really what you can do as a user. So in Salesforce, if you've deleted something, it stays in a recycle bin for I think about 15 days, and we can reestablish that account. So if you go to this pancake bar over here, you should all be able to type in recycle bin, and it should show you items that you may have deleted. So you'll see here that it's showing me that we merged that Oakland, that OLSA account. So it's going to show me that one of those was taken out of Salesforce. I could actually go in here and restore that. What I don't know is if end users can do that. Denise, have you had success?
I have never undid something that I did, so I have no idea how that function works.
Well, there,
I
this
didn't,
is.
I didn't
this
even
is-
realize that that was an option, to be honest.
This is the
so.
quick way to say, can I do this without tattling on myself? So I deleted something that I didn't need to. You can go to this pancake bar, type in recycle bin, and it'll show you the recycle. Then it'll show you things that you've done. I don't know if it shows for your entire agency. I would have to check that. But you should be able to restore those things back. But this is how you can find out if, yep, I deleted it, but I can't remember when I deleted it. I'll check the recycle bin, see if it's still there. And I'll reach out and say, you know, can you restore this? And we can go in and restore it. Okay.
I'd be curious how long that stays, because I have nothing in my recycle bin, but I mean, I haven't deleted anything recently, but I know I have deleted things and merged multiple accounts in the past. So, yeah.
And it may, I think because you guys have access to that object, I think it should show your information. It may be an administrative thing. I would have to log in as another user to see, but I think the rule used to be it was 15 days. It may have
Okay.
extended that or shortened it. I can check into that.
Yeah. And it looks like it's only going to show, you know, what I owned that was deleted. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to see our whole group.
Still 15 days, someone's saying. Good. Okay, so we've done the recycle bin. We've talked about duplicates. I did want to show you if I'm going to add a new account. So let's say I came back, I need to quickly add that test account that I was just at, but you know what, I don't have time to search for it. I'm just going to go ahead and create a new account. So I'm not going to listen to what Lori said. I'm just going to go to my accounts. If I use this drop down next to the tabs, I have the option to create a new account. So I'm just going to start doing this. So I'm going to put in I'm going to start going through this. I'm not going to put in their phone. I'm just going to go ahead and put in their zip code. Do quick and dirty. And see, it's already starting to say, whoa, it looks like you have a similar record here. So I can, from here, look at my view duplicates. And again, this is what I like about Salesforce. It doesn't take you away from what you were at. You're not opening up a new tab. It's all right here. So it'll show you, hey, it looks like you already have this test Acme organization. Is this the one that you want? And it'll say, go ahead and open. So you have those kind of stop gaps in there that are going to say, this looks like that's already a duplicate. Let's check this other one out first. Somebody in the chat was talking about the plugin that you can put into Outlook. And that's super helpful if your IT will allow you to add that. There is a Salesforce for Outlook, so you can actually kind of attach records from your email into Salesforce. That's probably a whole nother session. But again, that might not be something that's allowed by your IT department. Okay, so we've talked about duplicates. So duplicates are on account and contact right now. We don't have a duplicate rule in for projects or job orders or anything like that. So it's just on the accounts and contact. We didn't talk about leads, but leads is something that comes before it. It's actually an employer that you might be working with. So it might be, you just were quickly out at a chamber event and you grabbed a bunch of cards from somebody or some businesses and you want to put them in as leads. You can add them with just that little bit of information and convert them to an account later. I don't know that leads has really any value. Again, it depends on what your organization wants you to do, but I think you just might as well create an account for them rather than taking the extra step of having to convert that from a lead to an account later. The next thing I want to show is to continue to talk about what a tab looks like. So as you notice, if I click this down arrow next to the accounts, it gives me this option, and that's true in any of these. It'll show me all of these different options that I have. So it's from here that I can create something new within this tab. I can see what my favorites are. I can see the recent records that I had in accounts, and then I can see the recent list that I had. But if I were to just click on accounts, it's going to take me to what's called a list view. And this is a way for you to organize information to quickly view and edit now. And you can create as many lists as you want. If you click this drop down, you'll see that there are some list views that have already been created. You can see ones that are new last week. You might be able to see all accounts. You might want to just see recently viewed accounts today. So these are list views that were creative in Salesforce, just off the shelf. And these are list views that maybe a user has created and is might be helpful to you. You can pin a list. So you have all these options to have these different list views. But if this is the one I want to see every time I come to this tab, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to pin this. So maybe it's today I want to see recently viewed accounts. So if I go here, I'm going to pin this list and now I can see it. This is just like an Excel spreadsheet. So you can move these columns around. You can sort and do all kinds of things with these columns. You can wrap the text. So if I wanted to, I could make this a lot shorter and wrap my text and make this a little bit longer. You can see how many accounts are here. It's 50 plus, which means that if I continue to scroll down, I'll get more. So it's going to show you 50 just as an effort to not take a lot of bandwidth from your system. So these are the headers for this particular list, but as you can see, some of this information isn't all that helpful. So if I wanted to change something in this list, it depends on if this is a user created list or if it's one that came out of Salesforce. Some of them you can't make any changes to here. We can do that in the background. So if I go to this gear here and drop this down, you can see this particular list. I can't make any changes to these columns up here. So I may decide, this list just isn't for me. I could use this search bar to search for a particular list or something that's in the list. And now it's going to show me anybody that shows up in my recently viewed accounts that has tests in that. So I'm going to go back to this new last week. And this is a list view that I can actually control. So from here, I can change the name. I can change my sharing settings. So I can create a list and say, I only want to see it myself, or I want to share it with the world because it's the best list view ever. You can edit the list filters, which is also up here, and then you can select the fields to display. So you can only do fields to display that are in this list. So this isn't like a report where you can take some accounts and some contacts and some job orders or projects and make it all into one list view on this tab. This is only specific to the account. So let's say I want to add county to this list, or even industry. Do industry. So I just pull that over. Let's say I want that to be up here. I save. And now I have a list that shows me industries here. You know, maybe I don't need the BRN on that. So then I can go to select fields and I can take BRN off. If I want to look at the filters for what this list is telling me, right now I'm going to see just my accounts, and then I'm going to match all these filters. So you can add filters. I'm going to add a filter that maybe says industry is education. And I can add as many of those industries as I want. So I could make this, you know, my specific sector industries and change this. I can add filter logic to this list. So I could say, you know, now I want it to be 1 or 2. So I'm going to click save. And now it's going to make that list even smaller and just show me these 2 filters, these 2 industries, these 2 accounts that have this filter here. What I think is pretty cool about this related list is that if I had a lot of editing to do on some accounts or contacts, projects, any of these across the top, any of these tabs, I can come and create a list and start making my changes right here. So let's say, you know, these really aren't education. I can change this information from this list without having to go into the record, work through all that information and make those changes. So what will happen is if I were to update this information, a save would pop up down here and I would click save, and I can click save to accept all of my changes from there. So I'm going to go back and look at another list view. And I wanted to show you some of the things that you can do from here. So not only can you search in this list view, you could update the way the list view looks. You can edit the list from here. So it'll actually let you edit all of this information, just like the pencil does in any other view. You could create a chart and leave it in here, and then you could change the filters if you wanted to. The other thing that you can do is display this list differently. So you can display it like it is as a table. You could display it as this, what's called a Kanban. And what this does is it takes whatever column you have up top that has a drop-down feature, and it uses those drop-downs. So this isn't a very good example because we have 83 counties in Michigan. So it's going to try and show all 83. But if you had something that a pick list that was much smaller, you could actually move these items over and I could put it into the county, and it automatically updates that specific field. So it's updating that my county field, and I didn't have to go into the account and make those changes. I'm gonna move that back. So I can move these things all around. This might be particularly helpful when you're in projects and you're doing Going Pro Talent Fund and you have a bunch that are in the fact finding stage and you want to move those to the next stage. You could create a list, show all the projects that are in, you know, all the stages, and then move them through the stages quickly this way. So that's just one option. The other thing that you can do is view it as a split view. So this puts that view, that related list that we just made, on the left-hand panel of my screen. So now what I can do is keep my list up, click on an account, and now I can start seeing the account information inside this panel to the right. And now I don't have to go anywhere else. I can see this big list view, and then I can be editing account, adding information from here. So this is helpful if you're working with a set of an account or a set of projects or job orders for the day. You can make your list view looks like this so that you can quickly edit information or get to information without having to go to each individual account or searching for someone.
Lori, I have a question.
Sure.
Lori Spicer here from Troy again. This is really great, and I'm hopefully I'm understanding it. So to backtrack a little bit to the previous screen, where you can almost create a project management. If that's what I understand, those headers can change for the list. So for Going Pro Talent Fund, when we have, as you mentioned, when we have fact finding and then it goes to submission of application, we could actually create that list. And could we report out on it? Based
You
on the
could do a
information that
printable
Denise
view.
would
I
like
don't
us-
know that you,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't know that you can export that. I think you
Oh,
can
okay.
actually like select it all and try and throw it into an Excel. But you could do a printable view. So here I went to the projects and I had the Going Pro Talent from projects, and I had it filtered to just show me the ones that were fact finding. So I'm gonna get rid of my filter here. I'm gonna go back to that Kanban view. And now it's intuitive. So it knows that this is the drop down field from that list view that we had. So now you could take these and start moving them around if you wanted to. So you could move them from stage to stage without going into each individual record and changing that specific field.
And once we make those, move them into the list headers that we select, can we save it? Or is that
It
something
ought-
that's,
You mean save the list or save the changes that you
I-
made?
it should save the changes that were made?
It does it automatically.
Perfect, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't even have, I don't really want to touch me. I thought I had a test one, but I don't want to mess anything up. But if I move this here, there's nothing else I have to do. It's already, it moved it. You can see it right here. It went from fact finding to did not apply. I'll put that back. And then let's see what the printable view is. So from here, you probably could take this and maybe download that into a report. That's not very helpful there. This is kind of neat. This show more details. So depending on, and we might be able to even build this out a little bit more here to have more information. But you can click now into here and see a little bit more information about this particular project. So you'll have to play around with that Kanban view and see. I have really started to like this list view this way as a split view, so that I can have my list up here of, you know, the projects that I'm working on, create whatever list I want to create, and then I can just work from this list and I can just kind of go down through this and do what I need to do. Okay, so that's the related list or the list view in all of these. You will notice that if I click into each one of these tabs, the same view comes up and you have the same options to do what you need to do. This new means new contact. It doesn't mean new list. So when you want to create a new list, don't click new. You have to go to the gear to create a new list view. So this new, this import, this send list email, which is here because we're in contact, is going to be just specific to this object that you're in. Okay, I think we're going to move on to dashboards and reports really quickly, unless anybody has any more questions about navigation. Okay, so Salesforce has the ability for you to make dashboards that are based off reports that you have created. So you can't have a dashboard without a report. So you're going to want to first go to reports. And each of your organizations should have a folder where you are saving reports. You can create reports on your own and save them in your own folder, but you should have an ability to choose a folder and save your reports in. So you could look at the folder of your organization and see if maybe somebody else has created a report that you think would be helpful. You could create your own report and save it in that folder for your organization, or save it in your private folder. So this list, when you click on the reports tab, is going to bring you to this view, and you always are going to land on recent, but you have all of these options to look through the folders or to go up here and click a new report. So if we click new report, the first thing that you have to do is select what type of report type you want. When you create a report, you have to be able to think through where the information is in Salesforce before you get to the report writing. Salesforce it's not magic. It doesn't have reports that know exactly what you need. And because there's so much information in Salesforce, you have to tell it what you want. So if you're new to data and you don't have a report writing background, you might want to just start making like a little quick list on a piece of paper that says, you know what, I need a report and I need to know these things about the account. But I also want to know the contacts, or I also want to know maybe some information that's on the projects. And you have to think through where those fields might be to be able to create your report. So when you select a report type, it shows you the recently used report types that have been used. Or you can go over here to the category and you can choose all, and you can see all of the report types that are built on the background of Salesforce with the idea or guessing of what you might need to see when you look at that. So you can build a report type that is just on the accounts. So that's not going to show you any information for contacts because it's just building the report from the accounts tab. When you see two of these objects together with the and symbol, it's going to show you that you could build a report that has information from both the accounts and the contacts tab. So you have to kind of think through what you want to see. And I'm seeing some objects that you may not see when you do this because I have access to all of the objects in Salesforce and you have access to some of the objects in Salesforce. So your view might be a little bit different. So if we wanted to just create a report of something about accounts, I would click on accounts. And from here, it's going to say, you know what, you have created an accounts by county report before, or a latest activity date report. You know, it's trying to say to you, is something like this what you want? It's going to show you what might have been created by others. And then it's going to show you the objects that are used in this report type. So right here we have, it's purple, the account, the user is going to be in there, and potentially some of the contacts. And then it's also going to show you the fields. So if you had a question about, you know, I can't remember, was the county on the account record, I could look that up before I even started this report to make sure that that field that I want is going to be on that report. Now this report writing in Salesforce has gotten much, much better. Those features never used to be in here, and you kind of had to know that before you got into it, or had a very frustrating report writing session. So from here, you can go ahead and start this report. And what Salesforce is going to do is it's going to say, okay, when the accounts tab was created, they thought these were the columns of information that would be helpful to users. And it brings in some filters too. So you have the outline, and then you have what you're going to filter your report by. So the outline is where you're starting to build the columns that you want to see. And then in this panel, it's going to show you just a preview of what your report looks like. So I'm going to look at my columns and I'm going to say, I don't even know what the rating is. I don't think we use that field. So I can click this X here and get rid of that, and it'll take it away from my report up here. I also could go to this drop-down box and say, just go ahead and remove that column. So there's two ways to get rid of the columns. If I needed to add a column, I could use this search bar here, and it's going to give me the list of all of the fields that are in the account. So I can either scroll through those, or I can say, you know what, I want to add the Michigan County to this report. And then from here, if I said, you know what, that's really something that's the most important, I can move it, or I can move it using the arrows up at top. So right now it's returning no records for me because I'm sure these filters are filtering out information. So I'm going to add the columns that I want. This is more high level report writing. So you can add bucket columns. You could do row level formulas in your columns. And then you can group your information once we get some information in there. On the very left-hand side, you'll see fields and it has an arrow. If you click the arrow, it'll show you all of the fields. And then it'll show you what type of field it is. So this is a date field. This is a text field. This might be an easier way than you trying to think, okay, what was that field called that I want to add? You could find it in this list. And this is going to show you every field that's ever been created in the account. Now, we don't have all of that on the page layout. So this can get a little nuanced because you have to search through all of these things, all of these items. So that's why I think it's always nice to kind of sit down and plan out what you think your report should look like so you know exactly what you're looking for. And then if you don't want to see those fields, you can just click that to make this a little more compact. So next I'm going to go to my filters and I'm going to say, aha, this is why I'm not seeing anything because I haven't created any accounts since June 22nd. So now I can go in and change these filters and add filters. So if I wanted to see all accounts, I can do that from here. So I can either choose my accounts or I can say, I want to see all accounts, and then I'll hit apply. And now I'm going to start to see some information. But again, remember, this is just a preview. This is not going to show you the whole entire report. So if you look at this and you're like, oh man, I must have a filter wrong because I know there's more than 18. This is just a preview of what the report would look like once you run it. So I changed that filter. You'll notice that these boxes, there's no way for me to get rid of them. So these are the filters that have to stay within this report. So you just have to work your way through how can I filter this using these filters that are already built that are here. So now I can go to this create a date filter and then I have all kinds of options. So then I can say, you know what, I don't want to base it off the created date. I want to base it off the last activity. And then I can choose the range and I have all kinds of options. So you can do a specific time frame or you can use these relative filters. And there are lots of options. So you can look at the fiscal year, you can look at quarters, you can look at calendar year, you could look at the current year, the previous year. There's also the calendar month, the week, and the day. So I can do lots of different report writing. If this is a report that you're going to run often and you want the information without having to make a bunch of changes, my suggestion is to not have it be a custom date field, but to do one of these relative filters. That way, each time I run it, it's looking for the same information. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I want to do the current and the previous month. So it's going to show me those dates. I'm going to click apply. And again, I got a few more details. So now I think this is looking more like the report that I want to run for myself. I'm going to go back to my outline here. And I'm going to say, you know, this is a really nice list view. It looks good. But I think what I want to do is group this by my county. So I'm going to go ahead and I can do group rows here, or I can click this drop down right by my field so I don't have to search for it and say group rows by my field. And then now it's going to show me by county in a list what I have. The very bottom of the screen, you have these toggle buttons. So if I said, you know what, I don't really care about the details, I just want to see a quick chart, then I can get rid of my detail rows and now I can start to just see my totals. Maybe I don't want to see the grand total, so then it'll take that off. If I wanted to see the details again, then I pull the details. if I said, you know what, I don't want to group this anymore, I just want the list, I use the X and take that off. So now if I've got a report that I'm pretty good with how it looks, I can also run this at this point to see my whole list. I did want to show you that you can group rows by a date field. And then from there, you can group it by a bunch of different options within that. So we could even go to the calendar week if we didn't want it to be by date. So you have options to do all of these really neat filtering and summarizing right here within Salesforce. Okay, so let's say, yep, this looks pretty good. I think I like this. Let's go ahead and let's run the report. So you can choose to save it from here because you're like, I don't need to run it. This is good. You can choose to save and run it. You have other options here to change the properties. If you wanted to change the name of this report, you go up here to edit report and you're going to say report. Let's see, my account within the 2 months. Now I've named that. So I'm going to go ahead and save and run. And it's going to say, okay, are you sure this is what you want to name it? Do you want to give it a description? Where do you want to put it? You can choose a different folder. So maybe you have different folders that you want to put it in and you click save. So if it's a report that you want somebody else to be able to use, then you need to not put it in a private folder because they won't be able to see it from there. So now we've run this report. So now we've got our columns are summarized by calendar week. We can see all our activity, and I still have all those options down here at the bottom to say, you know what, just show me the nitty gritty. Wow, looks like some weeks I was really doing a great job. Subtotals, I'm going to take those out of there, and maybe even grand total, and I'm going to take those out. So the subtotals didn't do anything when I did this, but this is just showing you the record count of all of those accounts that were created within that time frame. You have some options in report writer now. Now you can edit fields. So I'm looking through this report and I'm like, oh my gosh, I spelled one wrong. So now I can go from here and I can make that update to that field right from this screen. I don't have to go back to Mike Thomas Lawn Care, open that up, make the changes, click save, come back to my report, run the report again. You can do those things from here. Some of these fields aren't going to have an option for you to edit. There's probably rhyme or reason to that. And it might be that it's a drop-down field or something like that that you can't fix. But so there are some things that you can edit. There are some things that you can't edit. You could add a chart to this record or to this report, I'm sorry, and you can change what the report looks like. So you know, maybe today I'm an up-down column kind of person or a donut. You can make these changes. You can give this chart a title. You can say, show me the values and the percentages. And now you've got your chart right here in this report if you wanted to look at that. If I don't want to see the chart anymore, I just toggle the chart off. I can change my filters really quickly from this section without having to go back in and edit my report. And then I can refresh my report. And then if I click the down button next to the edit, I can save as and create a different report. I could save my report with the changes that I've made. I can export it, I could delete it. I can add it to a dashboard, but I can also subscribe to this report. So I can set a subscription up that will send this report to me either daily, weekly, or monthly. You choose the day that it comes to your email. You choose the time, and then you say, I need to run the report as me, or maybe I need to run the report as somebody else so that I can gather more information to it. And you click save. And then every Thursday at 10 a.m., you'll get an email that this report has run, and it'll show up in your email. It's it's a pretty nifty feature if you're not using that. So then if I wanted to toggle the chart and I wanted to add this to a dashboard, it's going to take me to this dashboard screen, and I can say add it to a dashboard that I'm already using or add a new dashboard. So we will go ahead and make a new dashboard to attach this to. So now it's saying you need to add a component to your dashboard. So what do you want this report to look like when we come and look at our dashboard? And you have all of these options to display it, or you can just say, you know what, I already had a really great chart. I just want to use the chart that's in my report. Because we didn't have that report up, or the chart up in the report, which I thought we did, it must be saying that you can't add a chart to this from the report. So I'd have to check that and make sure that I didn't take that off. But you have all of these options. So you have your bar chart, your donut. You could do the list view as your dashboard. You have this gas gauge. So you could set up your segment ranges and watch how you are meeting your marks. And then what you do is hit add, and then you have the option to move this around. You can also make it bigger. And then the next time you want to add to this dashboard, you either create your report, come back and add it to that specific dashboard, or you can add a component which would say, go out and find a report and let me know which one you want to add to this.
Lori,
Yeah.
just so you know, the charts that are available are driven by the content that you're sharing. So not all charts are going to be available depending on the data that you are showing. And with your accounts within the last 2 months, you're really not comparing two different data pieces or data being driven from different offices or different industries or occupations. It's kind of like a single point of data. That's why you're limited on the charts that are available. So they are all there if the data that you're pulling fits into those options, if that makes sense.
Yep, good point. Good point. Yeah, don't get frustrated if you want to view this dashboard in a certain way, but your data is not fitting into it. You could probably change your report to get that to happen. You just have to be able to kind of maneuver within those things. So when I brought in the accounts by county, it said we can't draw this chart because there's no data. So this report that I had in my test space didn't have any data in it. So it can't show you a report, or it can't show you the chart for that. I'm going to click save, because when I'm in my dashboard, go back and look at Lori's training dashboard. And now what I can do is, okay, so it takes a second to refresh. Maybe it's my internet. It's going to show me this again. If I'm in my dashboard and I'm like, okay, that's a crazy number, or why is this looking like this? I can go straight to my report from that dashboard. So it'll take me back to my report where I can make any edits that I need to make from here. Any questions on reports or dashboard? That was a very fast run through the reports. We probably could do a whole session on reports. That it might even be fun to just bring what report would you like to create, and we work on those. Okay, there's no questions on reports and dashboards. We've gone through all of our, oh, I have a question. Oh, good. Well, the best thing about reports is to just get in and try it. I mean, you'll fail 10 times and then you'll be successful, or you may fail once or twice, but you learn so much from all of those times that you try to create something. And so don't be afraid of running a report. If you create a report and you don't know if it's really working, you don't know if that's the data that you wanted to pull, just save it as a private report and show it to somebody else, and they may be able to help you kind of determine if that's the report that you want to see. But my suggestion is just get into reports and mess around with it. You can't break anything. The worst thing that you can do is pull a report that's full of bad data and run with that. So, but getting in and creating those reports and adding your filters and changing the summary group fields and, you know, doing those cool things with the categorizing is that's where you're going to find the most value from Salesforce, because you put the data in, but you also want to get it out. You want to be able to see it a little bit and pull those reports. So like I said, you have those list views that are available here in your tabs, but they're siloed within that tab. You can't cross tab to get information out. So that's where you would have to go and pull a report. But you do have some good functionality in these list views to be able to pull some information and do some quick edits from there. Okay, so that's all I had to show you today. Hopefully I've answered some questions or helped you if you're new to the system. Again, get in, touch things, move things around. You know, if you mess something up, just let somebody know and we can likely fix those things. Reach out to your super users across the network and ask them for help. Ask the association for help if you have questions. And if you have any questions, we have some time for question and answers. I'm happy to take questions.
Hi, this is Kim Schultz. I'm sorry for just barging in, but I can't find, raise a hand. Question overall. What are you using, the nonprofit Salesforce or a regular Salesforce?
This is the nonprofit Salesforce.
Okay, so some of those features must be specific to nonprofit.
Well, no, I take that back. This instance is not. This is not the nonprofit. This, I think, is the enterprise edition, the regular edition.
Okay. And we're on our separate instance, so we're not with the state instance. Sorry about that. It's noisy out here. Yeah, we're on our separate instance, so I was just curious because some details are different than what we have.
Yes.
So
Yep.
I was just seeing if they were what you were on. So, okay.
Yep. Whatever instance.
With your enterprise.
Go ahead.
Whatever instance, that's what we're going to use.
Yes.
On the state's enterprise, do they allow for the sandbox to be used by each NWA?
We would not be able to make a sandbox available to you through the association's instance.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, because that is just so helpful when trying to develop or see what we want to use.
Yes,
You know,
yes, yep. Because the states, because the association's instance has multiple partners in that, your view in the association's instance is not by the role, your data is by the role, but the view is the same for everyone that uses it.
Okay, that sounds right. Okay, thank you very much. This was very informative.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hi, Penny. Been a while.
Hey, Lori, it has been a minute.
I know. I thought I was going to see you at a meeting in Bay City this week. I saw your name on a user registration.
Really?
Your friends were there. Was for the Regional Housing Partnership. Leanne and Sarah, I think.
Oh, yeah. No, I had just gotten, I know what you're talking about now. I had just gotten back from another conference and I was trying not to cause more waves at home by disappearing again. So
maybe I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. Great information today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
If there aren't any more questions, this is Emma. Just to let you guys all know, I will be sending out an email to everybody who signed up for the training that will include the recording of today and then also a survey link for some feedback on today's training. We at the association, we take all of your suggestions and your feedback really seriously. So thank you guys so much for logging on today. Like I said, if there's no other questions, you get a little bit time back in your day. And thank you, Lori, for taking time out of your day to do this training for everybody. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to see you all again, and look forward to hearing more from you. If you have questions, please feel free to send them along.